Okay, yeah, we'll get started in a minute. So welcome to the Hunter Hydrawise Wi-Fi discussion. We'll get started in just 1 minute. Okay, yeah. So it's time. So yeah, we're going to make a start. Thank you for all joining us on this webinar. We're going to talk about Wi-Fi controllers. So let's make a start. So firstly, I want to just cover off what a Wi-Fi controller is. And lots of talk about what a Wi-Fi controller is and what they do. A Wi-Fi controller is essentially just an internet-connected controller. It uses Wi-Fi as the method of connecting to the internet. So, and it allows for remote access to the system. So, I thought it's good to welcome to those people who have just joined. It's good to talk about what a Wi-Fi controller should do. And some of the basic functions that a Wi-Fi controller should do. Obviously, it should connect to the internet and it uses Wi-Fi as the mechanism to do that. It should get local data, and we'll talk a little bit about local weather data in a minute. It should be able to change or adjust the irrigation program or the schedule. It should allow for easy programming. It should have an internet failure backup. So that's pretty important that controllers have an internet backup for the if the internet goes down. Obviously, homeowners should be able to access the controller. Contractors should be able to access the controller. You should have access via a smartphone, and you should have access via a computer. So there's sort of some basic functions that a Wi-Fi controller should have. Looking at hardware, there should be enough capacity or station count, as we call it in the industry, to suit the needs of the market of what the customer is trying to do. It should have appropriate enclosures, an indoor enclosure for indoor applications and an outdoor enclosure for those locations where where we need to put the controller outside. Obviously, you should be able to do programming on the controller itself, because not all the time do we have Wi-Fi at the site. It should have a master valve. That's pretty important. It should be able to do flow. It's pretty important to be able to do flow, and I'll talk about flow in a little minute. It should also have the ability to detect electrical faults. Should be able to control lighting. And some of the features that from a contractor going forward, it should have access. The contractor should be able to access that controller remotely. They should be able to see a summary page of information about their customers. It should have the ability for reporting. That's pretty important. You want to know what's happening with your customers' irrigation. Should be able to manage thousands of customers. We start today and we think, oh, I've got 10 customers, but we should have the capacity to be able to scale up and scale down. So should have a thing called job sheets. Now, what job sheets are is a little mechanism where we're able to communicate to our field staff problems that the customer's incurring on site. Should have irrigation schedules and layouts, and I'll talk about those in a minute. Reporting, lots of reporting. A calendar view is pretty handy. I'll talk about that. Change logs. We should be able to identify who has changed the program. So all pretty important stuff for a Wi-Fi controller to be able to do. They're all pretty basic. There's nothing here that's specific to our product, apart from a couple of things, but typically they're the sort of products that you should expect in a Wi-Fi control system. So I can see we've still got people joining, so thank you for joining. We are talking about Wi-Fi controllers. So, okay, why are Wi-Fi controllers becoming important? And Wi-Fi controllers are becoming important because homeowners are demanding them. Yeah, so 94% of adults in the UK own a mobile phone, a smartphone. So that's a large proportion of our customer base is already looking to interact between their phone and their devices at home. And that change has really happened since 2018. It's been a massive change. And in 2018, phones started to become practical. They became bigger, the screens became more useful. And that's really important as we go forward to understand what's changed and what's kind of driving this. Okay. The other thing we like to say with Hydrawise, our particular product, is who wants a free irrigation assistant? We know that it's hard to get labour, and it's hard to get people to actually work in the irrigation industry and understand irrigation. And Hydrawise is kind of like a free irrigation assistant. It helps you understand what's happening at your customer's property without the need for you necessarily to go there. So, yeah. So talk a little bit about the Hydrawise solution and what we do at Hunter. So firstly, we've got lots of options. All of the controllers that you can see on the screen here, they are all Wi-Fi controllers. You can see we've got some touch screen devices here, and we've also got some dial controllers that connect to Hydrawise as well. That's really important to have flexibility, because each job requires a different, it might be a different client, different price base, different station count, different requirements. So it's good to have lots of options. We typically range from a 4-station controller all the way through to a 54-station controller. So we can do large projects all the way down to home garden. Okay. So what is Hydrawise? Hydrawise essentially is just cloud-based software. It's fairly user-friendly, and it provides water management technology. It simplifies irrigation. It provides tools for contractors and landscape managers, as well as the property owners themselves. So both the homeowner and the contractor can have access to the Hydrawise system. Okay. We also use a thing called predictive watering. And predictive watering uses local weather data from past, current, and future weather forecast information. And we use that to change and adjust the irrigation profile. That changes the program so that we're irrigating exactly as per the plant requirements. And that's very important. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So how do our triggers work?
I'm not sure I understand.
How do our triggers work? I've got a little example here. I'm just going to minimize this screen here and show you just a little quick example of how Hydrawise is able to adjust to weather. So if I jump onto our Hydrawise system, this is our predictive watering. So you can set the irrigation so that it doesn't water if the temperature is less than 17 degrees Celsius. So if you've got a temperature, for example, that in mind, in Australia, where I'm based, it's 17 degrees. It's about the time the time that we stop the irrigation. And these are fully adjustable scales. We can put on 30% less water if the forecast maximum is going to be less than 24 degrees C. We can put on 30% more water if the temperature is going to be 36 or higher. So straight away, we're able to adjust the irrigation to suit plant requirements. We're looking at how much, and using temperature as the indicator, using temperature, how much water do we need to apply based on plant requirements. We can also use things like if there's a chance of rain, don't irrigate. We can stop the irrigation if the wind is going to be too high. We can also look at what happened in the past, and we can say, hey, if yesterday, in the last 24 hours, if I've had 2.5 millimeters of rain, don't irrigate. And this is an adjustable scale. We can also say in the last 3 days, or that's a customizable figure, if we've had 10 millimeters, don't irrigate. So we're able to use real information. It's not a rain sensor that just says on or off, I'm wet or I'm dry. What we're saying is how much rain occurred, and therefore, what does that do to my irrigation program? And what's the temperature, and what's that going to do to my program? And so we can adjust it. And Hydrawise has lots of different methods. This is one method we use, but it's easy from a visibility point of view to see how we're able to change the program based on weather. So, okay, so we're a cloud-based program. We've got a cool trick called predictive weather that utilizes weather data, forecast, history, and recent past to create programs. We also have attached to Hydrawise a powerful tool that allows professional water managers to be able to manage their irrigation system. So if you're a contractor, you're able to see exactly what's happening on your customer's site. If you're a municipality, you'll be able to see what's happening on all of those controllers that you're managing remotely. So that helps build a stronger business if you're a contractor. If you're a municipal government, it helps you understand the irrigation much better. We also continually monitor the piping and electrical systems. So we monitor flow and we monitor electricity to make sure that what we're planning to do is actually happening. Hydrawise works on a multiple range of devices. So we cover both phones, tablets, and computers. I'm on a computer right now, but the system has an app, so you can download the app and use it on a mobile phone or on a tablet. And that's really important because as you manage more controllers, the bigger the device, the easier it is to manage. But when you're on site, you tend not to have a tablet or a computer, so your phone becomes a remote control for that irrigation system. Okay. So Hydrawise, it's really designed for contractors. With homeowners in mind, of course, because homeowners are the ones that are buying the product, but it's really designed for contractors to manage irrigation systems, or what we call multi-site managers. So whenever you're managing multiple sites, that's when you're going to want a Hydrawise system. It's designed to save time and labor. It saves water. It protects the landscape, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And the idea behind Hydrawise is to help you build a bigger business. So if you're a contractor, you can build a bigger business and manage more customers than you currently can when you're just managing them with a typical dial controller. Here's an example. So a customer has a puddle in the yard, okay? So without Hydrawise, the customer rings up and they've got a puddle in their yard and they've got a problem. What would have happened with Hydrawise is we would have identified that there is a high flow, and that wasn't there yesterday. So the customer, we would have been able to identify that there's a high flow, and that could have identified that there's a leak or a damaged sprinkler that's occurred. You could have, as a contractor, you could have rung the customer and told them about the product and saved them from massive water bill. As a municipality, you would have been able to identify that problem before it became a problem for the constituents, and you would have been able to then deal with that locally. So it's pretty important to monitor flow. Okay. Wire damage. One of the, working at Hunter, one of the largest problems our contractors have is understanding wire problems. Well, Hydrawise monitors those problems. So what we do is we continually are looking at the system and monitoring the valve current. When we understand the valve current, we can understand when there's a problem. So typically, if there's a broken wire, for example, you don't know that that problem exists until there's dead lawn or dead plants. Okay. So without Hydrawise, you have dead plants. With Hydrawise, you'll receive an alert saying, hey, there is a problem and you need to go and address that. We tell you which controller has the problem. We tell you which station has the problem. So it's very easy to actually go and fault find that out on site. Okay. So what we call is, your customer's landscape is protected, and at the end of the day, that's all they care about. Winterizations. One of the cool little tricks we do is your phone becomes a remote control. So doing winterizations during when you're shutting down irrigation systems, Hydrawise is your phone becomes a remote control, and it's very easy to manually start and stop stations if you're blowing out the system or shutting the system down. So you don't need two technicians out on site. You only need one. So typically what would happen is you'd have one person walking back and forth to the controller, or you'd have two people on site, one person yelling out, turn on station one, and the other person turning it on the computer, on the controller. With Hydrawise, you just pull your phone out and away you go. Likewise, if a customer's hosting an event, if a customer wants you to stop the irrigation for any reason at all, you don't have to drive to site anymore. You can actually, like me, on a Friday afternoon, you can sit at the pub and pull your phone out and actually suspend that customer's irrigation from your phone. You don't have to go to site. And that's a big time saving for contractors and places where you're running, looking after remote sites. Okay. The other thing is customers are asking for this. Customers want their irrigation on their phone. Okay, they've got Amazon Alexa, or they've got their thermostat at home on their mobile phone. They've got a whole lot of devices, their security system on their phone. They want to have their irrigation system controlled by their phone as well. So if they're asking for it and you're not providing it or offering it to your customers, they will find it online. And when they find it online, you're going to miss out on a sale. So it is, if you're a contractor and you're not currently offering Wi-Fi controllers to your customers, you should be. And we've got lots of templates that you can utilize, email templates, postcards, all sorts of information available for you to use it as a marketing tool to your customers. Okay. Seasonal adjustments, very big in the UK. We have lots of contractors who are continually making adjustments to the program. And that's very easy to do. You can adjust hundreds or thousands of controllers in minutes by being able to do that remotely. So you can sit in your office and change those controller programs, those seasonal adjustments, and do that remotely. Very handy tool when you're managing lots of controllers. Okay. So we've got some contractors. I'm going to talk a little bit about some contractors that are using Hydrawise and some of the successes and some of the things that they found. This is a little company in New York called AquaTurf. AquaTurf is not a big company. They're a small irrigation company. They manage houses and properties in New York. And as you would expect, they're high-end homes. They're CEOs of top 500 companies in the world. And those CEOs don't care about irrigation at all. All they want is on the weekend, their property better look nice. And so these guys started putting in Hydrawise 7 years ago, and that's all they offer. They only put in Hydrawise controllers, and they manage those controllers remotely. They put in a flow meter, and they monitor the flow and electrical output of the controller. And any problems, they're able to get on top of and send their staff out to fix them before the customer notices that there's a problem. And that's really important for their particular market. And I suspect there's lots of those types of markets in the UK as well. This is another example of a contractor. He's Ryan Lawn and Tree, a US contractor. They look after everything. They do mowing, trimming, everything that is required on site. And they put in Hydrawise because they are blamed every time there's a problem. So every time there's an issue or a concern that their customers have, they are on top of it. And they put in Hydrawise because it monitors the flow and the electrical alerts, and any problems they're on top of, they're able to fix them. If the guys are out on site and they notice that while they're trimming the grass, they notice that there's a wet spot, they will adjust the program automatically. So there's nice, easy updates able to be done remotely. Water Right in Melbourne, Australia. He's a contractor. He also happens to be one of the most expensive contractors in Melbourne. And the reason he's one of the most expensive contractors in Melbourne is because he does 100% care for his customers. If they have a problem, it's not their problem, it's his problem. And he puts in irrigation systems. He's booked out 16 weeks in advance for irrigation systems, and he monitors them continually from his phone. So any problem that those customers have, he's on top of, he's able to deal with before the customer is aware of it. And that's really important, because what it's been able to do for his business is make him step out from the crowd. As a contractor, he's now able to manage his customers' irrigation systems remotely. He's able to charge them for that management service, and he's able to provide them top-level care. And that's really important for his customers. Okay. So I've got a little spot in here for questions. While there's everyone's here and got a crowd, I'm just going to quickly jump in and show you a little bit about what Hydrawise looks like. So what I'm firstly going to show you is what the homeowner sees, or what you'll see if you're on site. Now, this is a computer, so I've got a full screen, but if it's a phone, it looks like this. So you can see straight away, you can customize the zones, you can customize what they look like. So you know that the vegetable garden, that's what it looks like. You know that the back lawn looks like this. So that makes it very easy to identify exactly which zone it is that you're talking about. Okay, so the homeowner gets to see this on their phone or a computer. They can log on a computer as well. You get to see some basic information. You can see there's the forecast. That's the forecast that we're using right now for where I live. You can see that the controller is connected and it's all good. You can see the watering time. You can see the water savings I'm currently achieving, and we've got a bit of a heat wave on at the moment, so my water savings is running down. But you would typically expect the water savings to be running around between 30 and 50%. You can see different sensor information. So you can see I've got a flow meter, and that's how much water's gone through the flow meter. And I've got a sensor that's called tank high. I also have a rain sensor on this controller. You can see the maximum temperature today, what it was today in Australia, and the rainfall, how much rainfall we've had in the last week and in the last day. So that's fairly easy to see and navigate, and that's typically the only screen the homeowners ever go to. From a programming point of view, there's all of the information. You can add a whole lot more information about the zones in particular if you want to add pictures and things like that, and you can add multiple pictures. The programming is fairly simple. So you give the program a name, you pick which type of watering, and we give you lots of instructions about which type of watering it is. Time-based uses those triggers that I mentioned before. Virtual solar sync utilizes a Hunter proprietary system we have called Solar Sync, and what that does is percentage adjusts the program based on the hottest time of the year. You put in your start days, the days you want to water, you have your start times. This is a 54 station controller, so you can see I'm only using two zones here, this zone and the other zone, this zone 10. And you can make schedule adjustments as well. So these are the triggers that are going to stop the irrigation from occurring. We also have a growing program. So if you do have fresh sod and you want to put a growing program in, that's sitting there. And you can also set monthly adjustments for that program. So the controllers, it's fairly basic from a homeowner point of view and from a setup point of view. Most importantly, from a contractor point of view, you get a list of all of your contractors, and you can see here's all my contractors. These are all my controllers in the US. So as a contractor, you can see all of your controllers on a map. It'll bring them up nicely on a map for you. I've got controllers all over the world because I do lots of testing, but you can see all of the controllers there. In fact, this might be yeah, so you can see exactly where all the controllers are located. So if you've got controllers in different locations, we'll show those for you. We also have a couple of other things. Firstly, you'll notice this little logo here. That's the logo of my business. That logo also appears on every one of your customers' phones. So if you're managing a customer, they will get your logo on their business, and that's just set up here at the business profile. So if a customer clicks it, they get all of your great details, all of the information about your business right there on that logo. And that sits on their phone, on their app. So it sits right there. So it's a pretty easy system for managing lots of customers. We also have a shortcut. So there's lots of shortcuts in Hydrawise. So if I click here, for example, I can move around my controllers fairly quickly. If I'm on a mobile phone, I can also sort alphabetically last used, the last controller I touched, a watch list for those favorite customers you've got. And on a phone, it doesn't appear on my computer, but on a phone, we also have closest to me. So we will automatically adjust the list based on the controller that's closest to you and where you're working right now. So it's a nice, really quick system to move around controllers. So just by clicking on another controller, sorry, I should be here. I can move around controllers very quickly. And that's exactly the same on your phone. It's just that appears at the top. And I can just move back to another controller right here. So I'll open it up for any questions. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining. And yeah, hopefully if you've got any questions, hydrawise.com is the place to go. So Hunter Industries is the company that owns Hydrawise, but hydrawise.com is the place where you should go to find more information. And that's hydrawise.com there. So any questions, I'll open them up. Yeah, if you've got a question, just unmute yourself and ask away. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining. There is a chat window too if you wanted to ask questions in the chat window. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I can see there's a question there. So you'll need to unmute yourself. Okay, I can see someone's trying to ask a question, but they're muted. Okay, I'll okay, thank you. I'll jump onto that website chat. Okay. So the question was, do we have registered installers to help us set up and train contractors? We have people in the UK with our own staff there. So yes, we do. And we have distributors set up and ready to help. So yes, we do. The best place to get support is, I'm just typing it in now, is support.hydrawise.com. If you shoot us an email, we'll arrange for you to contact, we'll put you in touch with our local distributors in closest to your location, and they'll be able to help you out and set you up. So thanks, Suzanne. Great question. Okay.